Hi, this is Chris Cartaya, and I'm finally going to do a complete and total Explorer review. Not just of my Longshot, but just the company in general, but also my Longshot. Now, one must understand that there's a few issues with Explorer. One is that not everybody in this country has an Explorer. It makes it really hard to actually audition their stuff in this country. Now, if you're in like Singapore or Malaysia or Indonesia, easy, easy. Everybody's got them. A lot of people have them. A lot of kids have them. You can see them fire. They do great guns. They are really cool. But I've always seen that in America, most people are into their snaps, their air guns. Me personally, I've been trying to get away from air guns. And the reason I've been trying to get away from air guns is I just think that air guns are overutilized. The springers are underutilized, and that spring power blasters need to be revised a bit. Well, this is one of those revisions. Is the Explorer, not just their blaster, but just their system in general. Now, first, let's just start with the darts. The Wonder Darts, the X darts. They are made for springers. They're not made for the sudden gate opening, bam, shoom, that an air gun has. However, out of a Panther with a proper brass barrel on it, one can easily do over 200 feet per second. It's just that these aren't made for PVC. They're made for brass or something along that diameter of brass. One of the things I've noticed is that X-Darts don't work with American preferences that well. But again, I'm not quite an American modder as to say. I live in America, but I don't follow the same concepts. The foam itself, they've come out with a new foam which is called Yallow foam, with a Y-A-L-L-O-W, it's a joke, Yallow foam. It's their own in-house production foam that they've made, and it's promising to be better than even the blue foam. But me personally, I've never had a problem with the blue foam. I've landed shots unbelievable. It looks a lot like Elite foam, except it has a much higher burst pressure to it. So you don't see the foam get tore up a bit. You don't see them explode. Mostly what you see is if you go too far, the heads will delaminate. That's what you'll see mostly. But that's just how you can rule them too. And some people like me like the heads to be removable so I can throw them on new foam and go through it. For example, okay, here you are. These are heads from darts that got delaminated from my glue and my foam, the way I do it. I use a glue that is non-destructive to the dart heads so I can reuse them. And they work well. I mean, I'm firing darts 180, 200 feet away with a sniper blaster like that one, which I know, negative inclination sniper, some people call them loser. Well, that's if you sit in one place, you're bound to lose. But at any rate, they do well even under high pressure. Number two are the magazines. Okay, as we all know, this is a PAC-D mag. Okay, what people don't understand, most people don't understand, is that this was originally Explorer's design, and then the guy who runs PAC-D ran off and made these. Now, before Hang had any intellectual rights or anything on them, he ran and did them. Then he did a copy of the X-Dart, and instead of being 0.7 grams, they were 1 gram. But they were exactly like X-Darts, but just a little longer. They called them PAC-D heads. Well, these were called Bob's mags, basically. And they're good magazines, but this is really, really tight right here. This thing right here, you can go, and that's just like really tight. If you put them on a two-piece breech on Explorer, and you slap it in there, eventually you'll break that two-piece breech. Now, his mags, Explorer mags, this has much more give to it. So if you throw that in the magazine well, which I'm about to do, like, let's say, like this, you're fine. It's made for that amount of give, but this isn't made for an Explorer blaster. So if you open the breech and then you load it, you're fine. But if you slam it in there, no, it's not. You will eventually break it. And a lot of people think, well, okay, so, well, one kid's like, well, Hang's just saying, no. He's not just saying that because he's trying to sell his magazines. He's saying that because it will actually break it on his own stuff, which is why he doesn't warranty blasters with these. It's not sour grapes. It is the truth. So then let's get to the magazines. The magazines, they are about, if you buy them 4 at a time, they're $60 US for 4 of them. The problem is that they're not mass produced like the Nerf ones, which you can get in Nerf Flat 18 and 18 darts for $10, $9 usually. These are not as mass produced. Oh, and this is my own custom paint right here, which is fading off because I have to repaint it. But, and anywho, you can buy 4 of them, American, $60, and then ship them. It usually ends up spending just under $80 for 4. So it ends up being about $20 a mag. If I'm 2 at a time, it ends up being $25. The nice thing is that they're the right size. You can hold 18 in here, but just like I would only put 10 in a Pac D mag, I would only put 15 in one of these. You don't want to smoosh the darts, and it does cost you performance if they are smooshed. So not only in jamming but speed as well. But they're a nice system. But as you can see, this is a commitment. You got new darts, you got new mags, you got all sorts of new stuff. Oh man, what a pain in the ass, right? Well, not really. I'll explain why in a second. The idea behind an Explorer is that you have 1 or 2 good primaries rather than having 10 or 20 badass blasters sitting on your wall. Um, Now, I like myself to have redundancy. I mean, the bird of prey type R up there, I have an L and an LX, you know. Faggot blasters, well shit, there's the LX, I'm sorry, the LT, sorry. There's the LT right there, saw the holster. It's ready to go. Just in case my catch were to go on one of these, and having 28, 30 kilograms of force, that could be so. But there are people that literally have over 100 Nerf blasters, and if you think about it, spending that kind of money on Nerf blasters compared to spending it on 1 or 2 really good blasters, like an Explorer, well, that's the concept that you got to think about. Is that you got a blaster that isn't going to break as much. You got a blaster that's going to fire good. It's going to have good performance. It's a system. It's an investment, but it's worth it. Well, here is mine right here. My Singapore Express. It's up to 26 kilograms and pretty much goes to terminal distance the dart can do, which is about 180 to 200 flat. I'm not even going to mention a speed because I'm having chronograph issues just measuring it. For some reason, my chrono doesn't like the colors of Nerf darts, any Nerf darts at their high speed. Another chronograph is reading that I checked that's reading much higher, but I don't know how accurate that is too. But I'm going to just go by the fact that anyone runs up to you with a rapid strike, a strife, and I mean maybe even a snap, they're going to have issues against this thing. You got magazine fed, you've got very high velocity, very, very good. And it's intimidating as shit too. So, this was originally a Spirit of Explorer blaster. It had a 16-inch barrel, which was more precise than what I have on here, which is 11. But not that much more precise. And it did buy a lot of, it did take a lot of the velocity away. And I wanted something, I really was looking more for a field blaster than a sniper blaster with my long shot. So, I cut it, and I crowned the barrel, and I'm getting, I'd say I got about 40 or 50 feet per second faster. Now, Hang actually took an 18 kilogram spring and put it in a Spirit of Explorer blaster, and he got it up to 330 feet per second. I'm up to 26, so that should tell you, whoa. Yeah, I'm not even going to say a number, because I know what you people think of my claims. Sometimes you think they're unrealistic, they're off, whatever. Well, play a battle with me. And you realize they're not. The Spirit of Explorer Blaster basically has a fighter kit.
Threat has been detected.
Oh, lovely. We'll get to that in a second. Basically is basically is a fighter kit, but it has the Echo Bolt sled and it has the shotgun grip. In my opinion, an extremely good place to start with an Explorer. A Spirit Blaster, in my opinion, is like the fighter's Explorer right there. Decent velocity, strong bolt sled, get you started with a good breech, get you started with a good breech finger, get you a pretty decent setup on your plunger spring and everything, and it's a good place to start for $270 to $280, depending on where the American economy is right now compared to theirs. It's actually not a bad place to go. It's not bad at all. So what I did with mine is I got an extra set of parts from him. Somebody was giving away some lime green parts, so I bought them off of him. So now I got an X trigger, an X lever, and a hawk muzzle. I like the hawk muzzle. That is definitely a good buy. You can go different colors, like the shotgun grip. This doesn't have to be black. This can be lime green, it can be orange, it can be red, it can be blue, it can be whatever the hell you want. It's great. Uh, I like the X trigger. Oh, do I like the X trigger? A normal trigger is like this, and this has like a good 1/16 of an inch above it. So when you pull the trigger, it bends and it has a place to give. This thing in here, it's got little notches, which by the way, lube those notches just so this runs freely. And if you got a sand in here just a little bit, just to make this a little smooth, do that if you got it. It's perfectly precise. The trigger is just, it's phenomenal. It's precise. One of the best trigger pulls I've ever had on a blaster. Didn't come with this, by the way. Separately, this with shipping would be about 120. Oh, and that pictionary rail, wherever the hell I put it, yeah, would be about 120 bucks. The X lever is nice. The problem is that, okay, you got to use, first off, I'm already, because my trigger discipline when I'm holding the blaster is already like this, and when I'm cease firing is usually when I'm changing out my mags anyway, so it doesn't bother me at all. So I got this to complete the package, but it can be a bit of a stretch if you're holding a blaster like that, because you got to use your middle finger, and I guess it takes some getting used to. And you got to hack the shell a bit. He's got instructions how to do it, and it's very, very clever. He actually wraps this X lever around this bolt. It's very clever. And then this has a little notch where your magazine finger is, where this actually grabs it. Here, see? Yeah. So, in reality, I think this is a little too far away. Either you can pad it with something and make it a little closer, or something. But this is just a little too far away for me, and I got pretty long fingers, so let's see a few other changes I did. One, bolt sled. Notice that there's a 440 bolt there, and there's a number 6 washer, 440 grade 5 hardened stainless, and you're not going to be able to find this in your Ace Hardware, your True Value. I was going to use grade 2 titanium, but they're a little soft, so I just used, stainless. And then I have a stainless steel nut on this side that's crazy glued in, but it does unscrew if I need to. I've done it once. I do this because the only real feasible way that a Echo bolt sled is ever going to come apart is if that pin gets loose. As long as that pin is touching these two metal parts, you're fine. Well, I decided, why not just, one, hold it together, but not too tight. If you over-tighten this, you'll break it. That's how I did that. Okay, I over-tightened it. It's just a spacer. I did just fine. I'm doing just fine with it, but I over-tightened it. Otherwise, this would be like this. This is my fault, actually. And so you don't want to over-tighten. You just want it snug in there. And there it is. And this will never come apart, and you'll never lose the bolt. The thing is, though, honestly, the pin's enough. If you make sure the pin just stays in there, it's enough. Okay? I'm also going a little speed demon on my design. So, of course, I have high compression on the head, on the breech, and I have dual springs, and I'm running 26K. That's, more than most people do. This worked out for me pretty well. Another one that worked was the barrel. Well, I'll tell you one that didn't work, and if you're an American modder, you're immediately going to go, oh, this has got to go. You will. The problem is, it doesn't have to go. The trigger breech has a big funnel on the inside of it, big 1.25 inch wide funnel. And as you can imagine, that inch and a quarter wide funnel is a good inch in. Now, if you do that area, that's like what, 15 cc's of dead space. So you're thinking, God, that's 15 cc's of dead space. Now, my normal blasters, by me, this one has 0 dead space, but it's got 37 cc's of air. It's a fire strike. Any little bit of dead space is gonna cause a problem with this blaster. Okay, so yeah. So the normal instinct is to get rid of that dead space. That's number one. Number two, I hate padded plunger heads. Yes, I know they break, whatever, but I like to go for a snugger seal and more air compression. If you have a good seal, your air is going to compress more, and it's going to make it so that plunger head doesn't slap into the head of your breech right there. And so I decided to put the plunger head on the front. Now, I didn't lose any speed, but I didn't gain any speed either. I put a piece of 430 going between the breech finger and the end of that cone, but I recessed the 430 so it wouldn't hit the plunger head. It is below the padding, so it's where the padding starts in the beginning. So it can never hit that 430. Okay, it can never hit that aluminum. It makes it so that this up here, and I put a machine screw in here because I was afraid of the pin. It makes it so that aluminum sits onto this breech, and you're no longer having this breech sit on there. And I also wanted this breech in more so I'd have more seal in here. But let me put it to you this way. The way Hang does it will work just fine. It will work just fine. I was so amazed. See, I've never worked on a long shot before. I was so amazed that it didn't make a difference. It didn't. I like my way of doing it better because now I don't have to the plunger head. I don't have to hit the plunger head with padding. I like the fact that this has got more of a seat. It's got not just this piece on this screw. It's got another piece in there. But I was amazed because a long shot's got like 100 cc's of air supply. It handles it just fine. You can deal with all that dead space. Another thing I did, and I really do recommend this, is the Trooper breech has 2 O-rings, not one like the Longshot has. The Longshot has one. Longshot, the normal breech, has that over there. Okay, this has a Trooper breech instead of just the Fighter breech. Fighter breech is just your normal Longshot breech. Okay, and that will break under this kind of tension. You have one going all the way around it too. Do make that snug. Not so snug that it's going to bulge the plunger tube, but snug so it is airtight. Because that's a good place to lose air is that breech. And because the way I do it, it doesn't. Other than that, it is a commitment. But I do give this 5 stars. It is an excellent blaster. One place to start would be a Spirit blaster. Another place to start would be getting a Trooper kit. And a Trooper kit has the composite bolt sled, and it doesn't have the pump action grip. But the pump action grip is not just for speed. My blaster is not the fast firing blaster for the simple reason that it's very powerful. I have a lot of spring force. But as my biceps improve, it will be faster. But I like it because it levels out the tension between one side of the sled to the other. And it makes it so when you're priming it, you're priming on the bolt sled with equal tension. Well, what that does is it makes it so that you're never going to bend that bolt sled. And no matter what, even if you got a bolt sled that you can one-hand prime, you're always going to try to put more yield on it. That's just the modern way. And I honestly recommend the shotgun grip for that reason. Do I like the 3D printed versions others have come out with? No. I think they're copycats, and I think that when you've got bolts and stuff in there, those bolts are going to rip out and heavier yields. At lighter yields, it might work, but heavier yields, no. And if you really want to exploit a long shot, you're going to try to get the heaviest yield you're going to get. Now, an Explorer system works differently than other people's systems. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of people make brass breeches for long shots. This one works where you have a breech finger and a tapered breech head, which goes into a breech that is also tapered on the inside and a breech head. So what it does is it self-centers the dart as it's going in. So when you're loading it, it always loads it. Now you do get jams, this and that. It may catch wrong, something like that. I've had a few of those. So I do have a cleaning rod for it just in case. Um, but it's a really good system, and it loads it up really nicely. But if that breech finger ever were to break, you're gonna have a problem with um, feeding, because now the dart's going to try to go higher than the finger, and it's going to misload. So you want to make sure that breech finger stays intact and doesn't get abused. Other than that, this is just a magnificent blaster, and I highly recommend that you start out. And they do make a lot more add-on parts, great improvements. The ultimate kit. I mean, you can buy the ultimate kit plunger assembly. You can buy that separately, and you can also buy a Duran catch for it, and a nylon spring rest back here. That works too. Um, Most of the stuff I've seen from them works really good. A few things I'm like, okay, I really don't need them, but most of it is worth it. It's worth it. So this is Chris Cartaya with my ultimate